Good Times more than just a sitcom. When Good Times hit the air in 1974, it changed television forever. It was raw, real, and revolutionary, the first show to put a working-class black family at the center, telling stories of struggle, strength, and survival in a Chicago housing project. The Evans family didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was everything. But behind the laughter were real-life battles. Fame, frustration, heartbreak. Some cast members rose, others faded, and some left us too soon. Now we remember their stories, not just what we saw on screen, but what they carried behind the scenes. Let's begin. Janette Dubois as Willona Woods. Janette Dubois was born on August 5, 1932, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A multi-talented performer whose charisma lit up every room and every screen she touched. When she joined Good Times in 1974 as Willona Woods, the stylish, quick-witted neighbor and best friend of Florida Evans, she was 42 years old and on the verge of becoming a television icon. Willona wasn't just comic relief. She was the bold, independent woman next door, fiercely loyal, fashion-forward, and unafraid to speak her mind. Whether she was trading jabs with JJ, protecting Thelma, or dishing out wisdom in high heels, Janette made Willona unforgettable. Her presence brought sparkle and sass to even the show's heaviest moments. But Janette Dubois was much more than just Willona. Off-screen, she was a singer-songwriter and trailblazer. She co-wrote and performed the theme song for The Jeffersons' the legendary Movin' On, up one of the most recognizable TV theme songs of all time. Her voice gave hope and pride to generations. She also helped break barriers for black women in entertainment, working on stage, film, and television in an industry that often tried to limit her. But Janette kept pushing, kept shining, and kept showing the world that black women could be strong, glamorous, and funny all at once. Later in life, she continued to act, sing, and mentor young performers. She earned 2 Emmys for her voice work on the PJs and remained a beloved figure at fan events and reunions. Janette Dubois passed away unexpectedly on February 17, 2020, at the age of 87 in her sleep. Her death stunned fans and left a void that still felt in the world of classic television. Esther Ro as Florida Evans. Esther Ro was born on November 8, 1920, in Pompano Beach, Florida, the 10th of 18 children in a Bahamian-American family. She grew up with disciplined faith and a deep belief in the power of education and culture. And when she stepped into the role of Florida Evans, first on Maude, and then in Good Times, she became more than a TV mom. She became a symbol of strength for an entire generation. At 53 years old, Ro brought Florida to life with quiet force. As the matriarch of the Evans family, Florida wasn't flashy or loud, she was rooted, steady, and fiercely protective. She demanded respect, gave love freely, and held her family together through poverty, loss, and injustice. Esther's performance was deeply human, never caricatured, always real. But behind the scenes, Esther Ro fought for more than just good lines. She pushed producers to portray a complete black family, insisting that a father figure, James Evans, be added to the cast. And when she felt the show was drifting too far into one-liners and away from meaningful stories, she walked away, choosing integrity over visibility. She returned later but never compromised her values. Ro was an actress with purpose, not just a performer, but a voice for dignity and representation. Off-screen, Esther was deeply intellectual, spiritual, and artistic. She loved poetry, painting, and African culture. She never married and had no children, but mentored countless young people and remained active in civil rights causes throughout her life. Esther Ro passed away on November 17, 1998, just 9 days after her 78th birthday. Her loss was felt deeply in the entertainment world and beyond. That same year, she received a posthumous Emmy for her role in The Summer of Ben Tyler. John Amos as James Evans, Sr. John Amos was born on December 27, 1939 in Newark, New Jersey, a former athlete turned actor with the voice of a preacher and the soul of a fighter. When he took on the role of James Evans Sr. in Good Times in 1974, he was just 34 years old, but carried the weight and wisdom of generations. James Evans wasn't a TV dad built for laughs. He was a man forged by hardship. Proud, hardworking, and often frustrated by a system built to keep him down, James brought reality to the small screen. And John Amos played him like thunder, fierce, protective, and deeply human. He wasn't afraid to raise his voice, but more importantly, he raised standards for what a black father could look like on television, for what a sitcom could say, and for how deeply audiences could connect to a man just trying to keep his family afloat. Off-screen, John Amos fought for that same authenticity. He famously clashed with producers over the direction of Good Times, especially as the show leaned further into comedy and away from social truth. In 1976, after just 3 seasons, he was written off the show. But even in his exit, James Evans left a legacy that couldn't be erased. Amos went on to have a long, impactful career starring in Roots Coming to America, The West Wing, and dozens of other acclaimed projects. He was nominated for an Emmy, celebrated for his range, and always respected for his integrity. Beyond acting, he was a writer, activist, and father. He remained active in storytelling and theater well into his 80s, and never stopped speaking out about representation, fatherhood, and justice. John Amos passed away in 2024 at the age of 84. After decades of inspiring audiences with strength, heart, and truth. His death marked the passing of a true television pioneer, not just an actor, but a presence. Johnny Brown as Nathan Bookman. Johnny Brown was born on June 11, 1937 in St. Petersburg, Florida, and raised in Harlem, a gifted singer, comedian, and actor whose presence could light up a room before he even spoke. When he joined Good Times in 1975 as Nathan Bookman, the bumbling building superintendent, he was 38 years old and instantly brought new layers of humor and humanity to the show. Buffalo Butt, as JJ loved to call him, became one of the series' most memorable comic foils. Bookman was clumsy, overworked, and always one step behind, but thanks to Johnny Brown's charm and impeccable timing, he was never just a punchline. He was lovable, genuine, and oddly essential to the Evans family's story. What many didn't realize is that Brown had serious talent long before Good Times. He was a singer with a velvet voice, once part of the legendary show Laugh-In, and a regular on the nightclub circuit. He even auditioned to play Lamont in Sanford and Son, but scheduling kept him away. Good Times, however, gave him a role that stuck in pop culture forever. Off-screen, Johnny was known as one of the kindest souls in the industry, humble, joyful, and deeply devoted to his family. He stayed married to his wife June for over 60 years and often performed with his daughter actress Sharon Brown. Johnny Brown passed away on March 2, 2022 at the age of 84. His death came suddenly, and fans across generations mourned the loss of a man who had made them laugh and made them feel for decades. Ben Powers as Keith Anderson. Ben Powers was born on July 5, 1950 in Brooklyn, New York, a charismatic performer with a bright smile, quick wit, vatritim apka tren manang long ngwai doi. He joined Good Times in its 6th and final season, playing Keith Anderson, a professional football player who marries Thelma Evans. At just 25 years old, Ben brought a refreshing burst of optimism and youthful energy into the show's final chapter. Keith wasn't just a love interest, he was a symbol of hope. A man chasing his dreams, building a future with Thelma, and trying to rise above hardship. But in classic Good Times fashion, life wasn't easy. A wedding day injury ended his football career, forcing him and Thelma to face the real struggles of marriage, money, and pride. Ben Powers gave Keith warmth and vulnerability. He wasn't perfect, and that made him real. His chemistry with Bernadette Stannis, Thelma felt sincere, and together they gave fans one of the show's few glimpses of romantic hope. Outside the series, Ben was a talented stand-up comic and impressionist. He appeared on Laugh-In, guest starred on The New Odd Couple, and even wrote material behind the scenes. But by the late 1980s, he quietly stepped away from Hollywood to focus on family and faith, leaving behind fame without bitterness. Ben Powers passed away on April 6, 2015, at the age of 64. Though his time on Good Times was brief, his impact, especially in representing Black love, ambition, and resilience, was lasting. Teddy Wilson as Sweet Daddy Williams. Teddy Wilson was born on December 10, 1943 in New York City, a smooth-talking, sharply dressed performer with a gift for timing and a presence that always stood out. When he stepped into the role of Sweet Daddy Williams on Good Times, he was around 32 years old and instantly gave the show one of its most memorable recurring characters. Sweet Daddy wasn't your typical villain. As a flashy, streetwise hustler with big rings, big laughs, and even bigger ego, he walked the line between comedy and danger. But thanks to Teddy Wilson's magnetic charm, Sweet Daddy became more than a stereotype. He was a scene stealer, a source of tension, and at times unexpected comic relief. Wilson's portrayal gave the show a touch of realism, the kind of character that truly existed in inner-city communities wrapped in flash and charm but with a shadow always nearby. Whether trying to manipulate JJ or trading witty barbs with Florida Sweet Daddy was always unpredictable and unforgettable. Outside Good Times. Teddy Wilson was a familiar face in 1970s and 80s television. He appeared in Sanford and Son, That's My Mama, The Red Fox Show, and even The Jeffersons, often playing lively comedic characters with a sly edge. His acting style was smooth, controlled, and always entertaining. Sadly, Teddy Wilson passed away on July 21, 1991, at the age of 47 from complications related to a stroke. His death came far too soon, robbing television of a rare and joyful performer who brought flavor and fire to every appearance. Helen Martin as Weeping Wanda. Helen Martin was born on July 23, 1909 in St. Louis, Missouri, a veteran actress of stage and screen whose expressive face and comedic timing made her unforgettable in every role, no matter how brief. In Good Times, she appeared as Weeping Wanda, a neighbor whose signature move was breaking into dramatic tears at the most inconvenient and hilarious moments. Though a minor recurring character, Weeping, Wanda became a fan favorite. Helen Martin turned Wanda's over-the-top sobbing into a running gag that viewers came to expect and adore. In a show that tackled serious issues like poverty, racism, and injustice, Wanda was a moment of comic release, and Helen played her to perfection. But Martin's legacy stretches far beyond Good Times. She had a long and celebrated career in theater, performing in Broadway productions of Raisin in the Sun, Pearly, and many more. Later, she became even more widely recognized for her roles as feisty grandmothers in sitcoms like 227, The Jeffersons, and the film Don't Be a Menace, where she famously played a weed-smoking granny, showing that even in her late 80s, she still had comedic edge. Off-screen, Helen was known for her professionalism, gentle spirit, and trailblazing work as a black actress in a time when opportunities were few. She helped pave the way for generations of women in entertainment, doing it all with grace, humor, and fearless character work. Helen Martin passed away on March 25, 2000, at the age of 90 in Monterey, California. She lived a long, rich life, doing what she loved, making people laugh, cry, and remember her. Moses Gunn as Carl Dixon. Moses Gunn was born on October 2, 1929, in St. Louis, Missouri. A classically trained actor with a voice like thunder, and a presence that commanded respect. When he appeared on Good Times in the show's later seasons as Carl Dixon, Florida Evans' new love interest after James' death, he brought something rare and powerful to the screen, quiet strength wrapped in tenderness. At around 47 years old when he joined the series, Gunn gave Carl a dignity that resonated deeply with audiences. He wasn't trying to replace James Evans, and the show made that clear, but he offered Florida and her children something they desperately needed: stability, kindness, and love without condition. Carl Dixon was a hard-working, thoughtful man who understood loss and healing. His relationship with Florida blossomed naturally, and Moses Gunn's performance made it feel genuine, respectful, and earned. In many ways, Carl represented the second chance at happiness, not just for Florida, but for viewers still grieving the loss of James. Outside of Good Times, Moses Gunn had a towering career in both stage and screen. He starred in Roots Shaft Ragtime and was a founding member of the Negro Ensemble Company. With his Shakespearean training and booming presence, he brought gravity to every role, whether it was on Broadway or in a television drama. He earned an Emmy nomination, and an Obie Award, but never chased fame. He focused on craft, on representation, and on telling stories that mattered. Moses Gunn passed away on December 16, 1993, at the age of 64, from complications related to asthma. His death was a quiet loss to Hollywood, but a monumental one for those who recognized the brilliance he brought to every performance. Matthew "Sty Beard, guest star on Good Times. Matthew Beard, affectionately known as Sty, was born on January 1, 1925 in Los Angeles, California, a child star of the silent film era who became a cultural icon before he even reached his teenage years. Best known for his unforgettable role in the Our Gang or Little Rascals comedies of the 1930s. Sty was the kid in the oversized derby hat with a wise-cracking smile and a heart of gold. By the time he made a guest appearance on Good Times in the late 1970s, Beard was in his early 50s, older, humbler, and grateful for the second chance at acting that television provided him. Though his role was small, his appearance was a touching reminder of Hollywood history, a connection between the golden age and the era of socially conscious sitcoms. His life, however, wasn't always joyful. After Our Gang, Beard struggled with the difficult transition from child stardom to adulthood. He battled drug addiction and homelessness for years, disappearing from the spotlight entirely. But in the 1970s, he turned his life around, entered rehab, and began speaking publicly about recovery and faith, eventually returning to acting with small parts in shows like Sanford and Son the Jeffersons and Good Times. To many, his comeback was a quiet triumph not of fame, but of resilience. He showed that redemption was possible, and that the joy he once brought as a child could still shine through even in brief moments. Matthew "Sty Beard passed away on January 8, 1981, at the age of 56 following a stroke. Though his time on Good Times was short, his legacy in entertainment and his courage in overcoming hardship left a lasting impression. Raymond Allen as Ned the Wino. Raymond Allen was born on March 5, 1929 in Kansas City, Missouri, a character actor with a gift for turning small roles into unforgettable moments. On Good Times, he portrayed Ned the Wino, the neighborhood alcoholic, whose presence, though often played for laughs, revealed deeper truths about poverty struggle and survival in America's inner cities. At around 45 years old when he joined the show, Raymond gave Ned a human dimension, while his slurred speech and staggering walk were used as comedic relief. There was always something more behind the eyes, a sense of weariness, of a life once full of promise. Allen played Ned with heart, never mockery, and in doing so he reminded audiences that even the most broken people had stories worth telling. Beyond Good Times, Raymond Allen was a familiar face on 1970s television. He appeared in Sanford and Son as Uncle Woody and in The Jeffersons as Ned's slightly more cleaned-up counterpart. His roles were often brief, but his presence was magnetic. He had a way of making every second on screen count. Off-screen, Allen lived a quiet life. Health issues forced him into early retirement from acting by the 1980s, but he remained proud of his work and the legacy he left behind. In his final years, he lived with family and often shared stories with fans who remembered his iconic characters. Raymond Allen passed away on August 10, 2020, at the age of 91 from respiratory complications not related to COVID-19. His passing marked the end of an era for those who grew up watching him bring humor and soul to television's golden age. Bubba Smith as Claude. Bubba Smith was born on February 28, 1945 in Orange, Texas, a towering athlete turned actor best known for his gentle giant persona and unforgettable smile. Standing at 6 feet 7 inches, Smith first made his name as a football legend, playing in the NFL for teams like the Baltimore Colts and appearing in Super Bowl III. But after football, he did something unexpected. He made America laugh. On Good Times, Bubba Smith appeared in a guest role during the later seasons. His physical size made him instantly memorable, but it was his warm, easygoing screen presence that won over audiences. In a show known for addressing heavy topics with humor and heart, Bubba brought a refreshing energy blending strength with sensitivity. Though his role on Good Times was brief, it reflected his growing status as a television and film personality. His biggest breakout came in the Police Academy film series, where he played Officer Hightower, the soft-spoken, kind-hearted cop with intimidating size and surprising grace. That role made him a household name and showed his incredible comedic range. Off-screen, Bubba was known as thoughtful, humble, and deeply committed to uplifting young athletes. He avoided roles that he felt portrayed African Americans in a negative light, choosing instead to use his platform with purpose. Bubba Smith passed away on August 3, 2011 at the age of 66 from heart disease. His legacy lives on not just in sports or film, but in the example he set of how to carry power with dignity and how to turn strength into something gentle and joyful. Alice Ghostly as Hortense Dobbs and Ms. Irma Austin. Alice Ghostly was born on August 14, 1923 in Eve, Missouri, a master of comic timing and offbeat charm. Known for her quirky, lovable characters across stage and screen, she brought her signature warmth to a guest role in Good Times, where even a brief appearance added lightness and spark to the show's often serious themes. Though she only appeared briefly, her presence was instantly recognizable. With her slightly bewildered expressions, soft voice, and sharp delivery, Alice made even the smallest scenes memorable. In a series that mixed humor with hard truths, she offered the kind of gentle absurdity that made audiences laugh not at the world but through it. Alice Ghostly was already a household name by then, having won a Tony Award and earned an Emmy nomination. She was best known for roles like Esmeralda on Bewitched and Bernice Clifton on Designing Women, where she became a fan favorite for her delightfully eccentric energy. Off-screen, Alice was shy, humble, and deeply respected by her peers. She never sought the spotlight, but always lit up the screen. Her career spanned over 5 decades, filled with performances that made people feel seen, comforted, and amused. Alice Ghostly passed away on September 21, 2007 at the age of 84 after a battle with cancer and strokes. Though she wasn't a regular on Good Times, her moment there was a reminder of her rare gift to make you smile even when life was tough. Ron Glass as Mr. Anderson and Mr. Pearson. Ron Glass was born on July 10, 1945 in Evansville, Indiana. A classically trained actor with a thoughtful presence, warm voice, and undeniable elegance. Before becoming a household name through shows like Barney Miller and Firefly, Ron made a guest appearance on Good Times in the mid-1970s. Though his role was brief, his impact was lasting. Ron brought a sense of calm intelligence to every character he played. On Good Times, he portrayed a composed, respectful man, someone who stood out not by shouting, but by carrying himself with quiet dignity. In a series rooted in social struggle, his character offered a refreshing glimpse of upward mobility, grace, and intellect within the Black community. Shortly after, Ron Glass rose to national fame as Detective Ron Harris on Barney Miller, where his wit, style, and comedic timing made him one of the show's most beloved characters. Decades later, he won over an entirely new generation as Shepherd Book on Firefly and Serenity, playing a mysterious preacher with a hidden past and a heart full of wisdom. Off-screen, Ron was a devout follower of the Baha'i faith and lived a life of integrity and humility. He carefully chose his roles, refusing to portray harmful stereotypes, and remained a quiet role model in the entertainment world. Ron Glass passed away on November 25, 2016, at the age of 71 due to respiratory failure. His death was mourned by fans across genres from sitcom lovers to sci-fi diehards, all of whom remembered him as a man who brought light to every role. Thalmus Rasula as Ernie Harris. Thalmus Rasula was born on November 15, 1935 in Miami, Florida, a commanding screen presence with a rich voice, intense gaze, and an undeniable aura of authority. A classically trained actor with Broadway roots, he brought gravitas to every role he touched. In the 1970s, he appeared as a guest star on Good Times, portraying a strong, principled character who left a lasting impact despite limited screen time. On Good Times. Rasulala's character was more than just another visitor. He represented stability, education, and a dignified counterbalance to the chaos of poverty. Whether as a teacher, mentor, or father figure, his scenes carried emotional weight. He wasn't there to crack jokes, he was there to remind audiences that Black excellence was real, attainable, and powerful. Outside of Good Times, Thalmus Rasula built a remarkable career in film and television. He starred in major 1970s films like Cool Breeze Blackula and Friday Foster, and appeared in popular TV shows such as Roots the Jeffersons, The Streets of San Francisco, and New York Undercover. He became one of the most prominent African-American actors of his time, dignified, versatile, and unafraid to take on roles that challenged stereotypes. Off-screen, Rasulala was deeply respected in the acting community. Known for his discipline and professionalism, he brought a serious approach to every project. He was proud of his African heritage and often selected roles that uplifted and empowered Black narratives. Tragically, Thalmus Rasula passed away on October 9, 1991, from a heart attack at the age of 56. His death was a sudden and quiet loss for the entertainment world, a reminder of just how many voices from the golden age of Black television were taken too soon. They made us laugh, they made us think, and they made history. Though their time has passed, their voices, their stories, and their spirit live on in every rerun, every memory, and every heart they touched. Good times may be over, but their legacy is forever.